Hey, what's up everybody? So in today's video, I thought we'd take a look at James Conner. And so in this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on whether I think he's a guy you should be targeting in your fantasy drafts or if he's a guy you should be avoiding. So if we start out and look at how he performed last season, he didn't do very well. He only played in 10 games because he did have injuries. I think it was two. Let's see, what was it to? It was to his knee and his shoulder. So he only played in 10 games last season. And I think that those injuries sort of held him back. Definitely those games he missed, of course, but also in the other games that he was playing as well. So if we look at his stats, he ran the ball 116 times for 409 yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. And then he had 34 receptions for 251 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if we just take a look at last season, if you were to do what he did last season per game, I don't think that he is a guy that maybe you should target. But I think it's important to look at the season before and see what sort of changed from 2018 and 2019 for him. Because in 2019, he played in 12 games. He had 215 attempts for 973 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 12 touchdowns. Then he also had 55 receptions for 497 yards and 17.3 points per game. And if you look at him in 2018 from a per-game perspective, he was ranked 7th in the NFL in that season. So what sort of changed from 2018 to 2019? I think, of course, one of the big reasons was he had lots of injuries in 2019. I think one other reason is the fact that Ben Roethlisberger played through all of 2018, but last season he was out because he hurt his elbow, and so he only played in 2 games last season. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons is Ben Roethlisberger threw the ball for 5,100 yards in the 2018 season, and in 2019 they had to bring him some other quarterbacks who weren't as talented as him. And so I think with Big Ben coming back this upcoming season, I've heard that his elbow is fine and he should be ready to go in this upcoming season. And I expect him to be just as good as he's been in the past, to be a really good player in this upcoming season. And I think having him back will allow this offense to move the ball a lot more effectively with the receivers they have and with James Conner. And I think that it's very likely that James Conner could go back to his 2018 ways, the way he performed in 2018, because I think Big Ben was one of the big problems. Because if you're thinking about it, if you have a guy like him who's a pretty solid quarterback, and then you bring in these other guys who aren't as good as him, it would make sense that the entire offense would struggle. It would make sense if the passing game isn't really working very well. Then it would be harder to get the running game going. Because if you have Ben Roethlisberger, the passing game is going well, then it'll be easier to run the ball because the defense has to focus on the pass and the run. So I think that's a reason to believe that James Conner will be much better in this upcoming season. I think he could get back to the form of 2018 with the 4.5 yards per carry. Last season he only had 4 yards per carry. So a couple other interesting stats I saw when researching this is in 2018, he was 13th in rush success rate, 15th in rushing net expected points, 9th in target net expected points, and 10th in reception net expected points. And then in 2019, he took a hit in the rushing categories, 23rd in rushing success rate, and 36th in rushing net expected points per carry. So he definitely took a hit, as we already know. But I think, as I've stated before, that I think that with Big Ben back, with James Conner getting over these injuries, I think that he will be better in this upcoming season. Well, if you look at 2019, he actually had really good passing numbers still. He was 4th in target net expected points, 9th in reception net expected points, and 9th in reception success rate. So I think that he's a great receiving threat, and he showed that in 2019, even when the Steelers weren't doing very well. And so I think there's no reason that he won't continue to do that with Ben Roethlisberger back onto the offense. And then one final thing that I think you should take into account, which I think is a pretty important point, is Mike Tomlin said that he wants him to return to be a feature back in 2020. And he also said that he's a featured runner. He has a featured runner type of guy mentality. So the coach came out and said that basically he wants to feed James Conner the ball again in 2020. He wants to get back to that type of style of playing. So I think there's no reason that he won't do that in this upcoming season. And if we look currently at where he's being drafted, his ADP is 24th according to Fantasy Pros. So his ADP is 24th. In 2018, if you look at a per game basis, he finished 7th in points per game. So I think there's a very high possibility that he could be a sleeper right now. He's being picked 24th. He could definitely be a top, like a running back 1, I think, in the top 12 of running backs, as long as he can stay healthy. I think he has the potential to get back to that form. And so with him being picked as a 24th running back right now, there's lots of room, there's lots of upside in him, and I don't think there's as much risk. I think the only risk would be, of course, he is an injury risk, and he has had trouble with injuries, so that could be one of the, only downsides of picking him, but there's always an injury risk no matter what player you pick, especially when it comes to the running back position. But those are sort of my thoughts on him. I think he could be a great player this upcoming season. So I hope you guys got some value from this video. And that's going to be all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.